Hi, I'm Eric Moreau.
Yeah, I'm Norm Moreau.
Hey, Dad. Let's talk about how you went from working for other people, multiple contractors and things of that nature, to deciding to go in 1999 to Theseus, and a little bit about what Theseus means to you.
Sure. So I got caught up in the Y2K layoffs, so like a lot of other people, and wound up doing odd jobs here and there on, in areas that were quality assurance, training related. And it gained a little bit of momentum. People kept asking me to come and do things. And so I thought, maybe I'll give this thing a try. Naming the company was an interesting exercise. It started out as SER Technologies, SER, which was family members' initials. And that just wasn't working. It just didn't have any spark to it. So I thought, okay, all right, I'm going to pick a Greek name. I got a Roman Greek, something like that. And so I went to the A's. Everybody wants to be at the beginning of the telephone book, and all the good A's were gone. And so I thought, okay, well, let me see what else I can find. I stumbled on a university paper about Theseus, the slayer of the Minotaur and all that sort of stuff. And what was interesting about that is the site talked about Theseus, he who puts in order. And that was a connection to the things that he did in Athens as a Greek god. And I thought, process, putting things in order. That's what quality assurance people do. And I thought, this is it. This has got to be the name of the company. So it became Theseus Professional Services, and has served us well as a company name.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic story. And you're correct. It couldn't be much better idea of what that name means for us. I mean, on your side, it obviously for a long time, processes is what you were doing. And kind of ironically, from the security division side, that's what we do too, right? We have processes. We have different orders that things go in, right? We have a schematic design phase. We have a design development phase. We have construction development or documentation, and then we have construction administration. It's all a process, and each time a process, we have to do quality checks, right? And so it's kind of funny that we look back at it a little bit, and how ironic that you picked that in 1999, and I joined the company in 2018 to bring in physical security division, and it still fits. And I think it fits for anything that we want to do outside of what we're doing right now. When we went to expand and we want to do some future things, that process will never be lost. And I think it's a fantastic name. It works really well. So your military experience with 26 years in the military helps Theseus gain a certification, one, the VOSB, and two, the VSBE. What do those mean to you?
Yeah, so the VOSB is the one that I had before you joined the company, and it made sense for us to get that accreditation, if you will, because a lot of the work I was doing was with the federal government, and here in the D.C. area, as well as the Department of Energy work and national laboratories. So it was easy enough to just say, yeah, we need to do that because it opens some doors for us, and why not? Often what was the case is that people didn't necessarily know that we had the accreditations, but once we got on board and say, oh yes, we're a veteran-owned small business. Yes, we are, and happy to help you with meet your small business goals. And that's true of the state registrations that we have as well. They've give us opportunities to get together with the Maryland folks in terms of veteran opportunities and outreaches as well.
Yeah, and I know it's helped us some as well on the physical security division side, especially on the state. A lot of the VSBE state side is in their RFP is requesting a minimum of 3% participation for veteran-owned companies. And it happens to be in the construction side, there doesn't seem to be, at least from a design piece, there's not a lot of those types of groups that are out there. So we've been able to kind of help along some of our teams that we get on that are requiring some sort of veteran-owned participation, and we've been able to help some of them along with that. So it's been a fantastic certification for us. It helps, helps the knowledge of people getting out there that says, hey, veterans need to be taken care of, right? And so people are starting to recognize that between the states and the federal, and I think it's a fantastic certification. Obviously appreciate your service, and I think it's important that people know that we are a veteran-owned company and that we can help them meet some of those expectations when it comes to RFPs.
Yeah, it opens doors to working with companies that wouldn't necessarily work with companies that that are smaller. So why should people pick us?
Yeah, I think we have a lot to offer. We just talked about veteran status. I think it's important that that people look at that and help get those points in certain situations. I think the other thing is we are a small company, so we're pretty fluid. We're able to kind of adapt when situations happen, and I would say one of the biggest things for us is the white glove mentality, right? We want to white glove all of our clients. We want to make sure that everything that we do for them is obviously within the line of what we do from a regulation standpoint, for security specifically, right? We don't want to, cut any corners, but we also want to make sure that we're, thinking outside the box and making sure that the client's getting what they want. And I really use that white glove mentality, and I make sure that our team has that same mentality. One of the things that we need to do as a small company is we need to be able to show why they want to choose a small company versus a larger company. And one of those things could be is that, hey, we're going to be able to be there and support you and make sure that what you're looking for is going to be accomplished. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest reasons, is that fluid mentality, fluid capabilities of, making sure that the clients get what they're looking for.
Yeah, I would add the fact that we've been in business for 26 years. Obviously something that, you came on board in 2018, but the company's been around a long time, long history, in regulated environments, and, some of the things that we've talked about. So I think those are all pluses.
Regulations is big, right? And security, we have certain regulations and certain guidelines that we want to make sure that we're applying. And I think having the knowledge that we have and the experience that we have between both of us, I think makes a great asset. And then I'll add one more thing. You're a professional engineer. You're able to stamp drawings. There's not a lot of people out there that have that capability. If you're in a smaller firm, a lot of the larger firms can do stuff like that, but on the smaller side, if you're looking for that veteran company or small business certifications, or you want that real intimate feeling of, we're going to sit down with you, we're going to walk you through this process, that's what we do. A lot of those groups don't have the capability of stamping drawings if it's needed. And to be honest with you, it's a big change in the industry of where we've been for security. Security is always considered, it's low voltage. It doesn't need to be permitted. It doesn't need to be licensed. It's starting to change. It's shifting. And from the federal side, most federal projects require some sort of stamp. And so I think that's a huge thing for us. And it allows you, on your side, to bring a little bit more to us on the physical security side of that, quality check, right? Making sure that, hey, this is supposed to do this. Is this what the documents say? And, I think that's a great asset for us. And I think that's a real good selling point of why somebody would want to hire Theseus.
I think being able to say to customers whether they need a PE or not it says something about the integrity of the organization.
Oh,
You
yes.
know, PEs, you know, when we sign something off, that's our name, that's our reputation, that's our experience and knowledge that says the kind of people that we have in our organization. So it most definitely is helpful.
So obviously we've been using a lot of what your experience is with the documentation and quality control and things of that nature. And you know, I think it's important that we tell them kind of what's that next step. What else? What are you going to do as we kind of merge the company together and really have you come in on the physical security side? So, you know, we have that one project that we're working on currently, the commissioning project, and you know, I've brought you on as a lead. Well, we call you the partner, but it's really more of a lead security commissioner, right? And commissioning of the physical security side of stuff. And so during this process, not only are you reviewing your documents, which you've done for us in the past, but we're also bringing you into the field, which is something you haven't done. What are your thoughts about that? What do you think about coming out into the field?
No, I'm excited about that opportunity, and it's interesting. It really aligns with many of the things that I did I do as a quality professional. I go out to companies in the supply chain. I do inspections. We would call that term quality control. It's a check to make sure that we have the specification. Did you meet the specification? So it aligns up perfectly, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a little more hands-on than than I have been with the quality assurance. It's you know, you go in, you look at things, and you ask questions. That's one thing that quality control people do a lot of, and so should people who are doing verifications or part of the commissioning process, is asking lots of questions. Well, why is it this way? And why doesn't it match the specification? Could you help clear that up for me? So I'm excited about that. That'll be a experience of you know, something that I have done closely, something like it, but not exactly that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think for us, you know, even what we typically do, which is electronic security. I mean, so this is even a little bit of out of the norm for what we do, and I think, as you just mentioned, a perfect fit for, you know, kind of leapfrogging us into a little bit of a newer market or a newer industry of what we do in security, which is that physical security side. And I think from your aspect of it, asking questions. Well, you know, how was it done? When was it done? Where's the UL listing? Where did you buy the product from? That is that supply chain concept, right? And the physical security world, specifically when it comes to like blast rated windows or barriers. Well, we can't just run a car right into your barrier. That doesn't make sense, right? We're not going to ruin your barrier before it even gets going. So you need to understand all of the things. What was the concrete mixed like? Where were the rebars? You know, and then going in and making sure that those things were done appropriately. So I don't think at this point there's much a better way to get you kind of built into it, and then also understanding the electronic security side of it, right? I mean, I think we need to go in and do that commissioning, and you being there doing the physical can now see the electronic side, and you can like, okay, now I kind of see how these things go, and that's more of what we do. I would love to try to get more into the physical side of it, but the electronic side is prominently what we do. But again, it's one of those things that, you know, understanding what we do, not only does it you know, is it something that you think is going to be a great thing to do and enjoy doing, but it also helps you on the quality side, right? Quality check side, where it's going to make you say, hey, I remember when I was out there doing this, and I remember how it worked. We need to make sure that, hey, in our spec, we need to write this, because I remember when we went through this process in that commissioning piece, that we kept getting this question of, you know, the door contact wasn't fitting in the frame. It was hanging a little bit. Well, that's because the hole in the frame was cut to 1 inch, and they're using a 3/4 inch contact. We need to make sure our specs are saying a 1 inch contact, or that the frame needs to be cut for a 3/4 inch, right? And so I think that helps, you know, a little bit of hands-on we'll help with the quality checks as well.
The transition for you to joining the company, I guess I probably, didn't think about it a lot, but I saw characteristics in the work that you were doing that really aligned with some of how I wound up. Of course, I kind of got dropped into it because of the Y2K situation in '99. But you were moving into different roles, and I think one of the things that stuck out for me in the before you joined the company was this idea of MEPs need to be more than MEPs. They need to have a T at the end of that for the technology piece. And I thought, that's kind of reflecting on myself. I was sort of thinking outside the box a little bit and just saying, that's working, but we need to think further. We need to think about different things and how do these things grow. And I thought that is really aligns with my view of the world, and consultants do that. We always are thinking outside the box, and before you even joined the company, you were thinking along those lines. And when we had discussions, I don't really remember how it started out specifically, but we started talking about joining the company. I had no hesitation at all that you would be a good fit within the model that I had of sort of thinking outside the box, taking on jobs that sometimes might be a little more difficult than what I should have had, or working with outside organizations. And I thought the kinds of groups that you had been working with, you weren't just one narrow path. There was the whole big picture. I thought that's kind of where my mentality is. That's kind of where the company had been up to 2018, and you brought and you coming in just sort of emphasized that, and we've grown as a result of that. So I never had a hesitation about you coming on board and joining. I thought that we could work together, and we have worked together well.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think when I joined in 2018, I did have some plans, and it went from kind of this big net, right? And that's what you needed to do. You needed to try to find something, and it started to narrow down a little bit, and then it opened up again. And I think that's kind of that fluid mentality of being a small business and kind of going the right paths and things like that. And I think for working together, I would say one of the best things that happened when I first started was we'd have conversations, and I'd use it as a sounding board, right? At that point, you knew what I did, but you didn't really know, right? You didn't really know the technology. You didn't really know those intricate pieces of what we do. So as we kind of grew, you obviously would start to understand a little bit more, because we're having weekly conversations, whatever it was. But I was able to use you as a sounding board to kind of go and say, hey, what do you think about this? Like, what does this make sense? Or, I mean, there's contract stuff that I'd come across that I would have had no clue on how to get done. And I would say, hey, have you done something like this? And we'd talk through it. And we'd have sometimes 2-3 hour meetings. We wouldn't even call them meetings. We were just discussions about certain things, about where do we want to go and how do we want to go. And I think probably around 2019, 2020, if you remember right, when we were kind of talking about how to really hit the market, we were like, hey, we want to be a low voltage design firm. We want IT, we want AV, we want security. And then we had to kind of pull that back because it was just too big of a net. There was just too much going on, and what we were finding is we really weren't doing what we were experts at, which is security, right? We weren't doing that. And so I think, some of those conversations helped us kind of realize that this probably is not going to make, at this point in what we're doing and building this, right now it didn't make sense. And then I think once we realized that, we were able to kind of focus in on security. And I think a lot of that discussions together, realizing that we need to focus, kind of dial it back, focus on security. And that's helped us grow to where we're at today, which is, we have 4 employees, counting you and I. We have 2 other full-time employees. At Theseus, before I joined, had 1 full-time employee. yourself, right? And so we ultimately want to grow to a 10 to 15 person firm, but I think us working together, talking back and forth on what we want to do and how we want to do it, and where that growth and when that growth happens, I think has been and will be beneficial for us as we move forward. I think we work very well together. If I was to say one thing that I've noticed as you've kind of transitioned yourself from the quality side and gotten into the security side, is when you were brought onto the commissioning project, is I have found that I need to give you deadlines. I found that the work that you do, the quality of work you do, fantastic. We have a security engineer on staff who is extremely detail oriented. Tim is extremely detail oriented. You're on that same page, super detail oriented, do everything. But I do have to give you timelines. As I give you the information, I'm like, so have you done that? And you're like, no, I haven't gotten to it yet. Okay, that was 2 weeks ago. That's 3 weeks ago. I'm like, so if I was to give any kind of thing for us to work together that I have found that we need to do is deadlines. And maybe I'm the same way. I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you've run a company as long as I have, of course, I've been on deadlines from customers, and so I need to view these sorts of requests in a more light as I'm actually working for you. I know that's a little hard for me to say, but
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Not at all. I enjoy our relationship, our meetings. I found that. Particularly your point about the contract stuff, I'd worked with those for years. And so I think that kind of helped you with some of that transition over into the contract world and the kind of languages that people use and the things that we need to be careful of. So I think it's been a good working relationship. I've mentioned to probably family members and close friends that I've actually never told you no. Even though I'm the principal owner, it means nothing really other than it's on paper. I actually have not ever told you no. You have come back to me a couple times and said when I asked, well, what did you decide to do with that one thing that we talked about? And your response was, I knew you didn't want to do it.
Yes, yes. And I'll say this. Since he didn't mention it, I will mention it. I do know that there's some things that I forget a lot of times, and it's great from the relationship standpoint of being able to have, because again, going back to that detail-oriented side of you, there's been times when we're in our weekly meetings, and I'll say, hey, Norm, you got anything to say? And of course, he always has something to say, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to talk about that, or I forgot to do that. So I know there's a little bit of that that's helpful as well. So you're being a little modest in not telling me or telling them things that I know that I need to work on, so I'll help you with that one.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's a checks and balance, so it's very good.
Yeah.